Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Machinika Museum. So, in the last episode I started to really feel like a lot of these puzzles are not perhaps super easy, but they don't have any dead ends on them. So, several times I was able to just kind of fiddle with the settings to figure out how to solve these room-like puzzle contraptions. And it's kind of hard to complain though, because notably this game is also fairly short and sweet in that there really seems to only be one more chapter, and maybe the final chapter will be 2 chapters long. So on that, when it's short and sweet like that, it's hard to really complain. This I had already solved. Am I in the right chapter? Yeah. Yeah. I exited out of the game, and it might be a case where I just clicked on the wrong thing there. See, there's some weird layout here too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then 9. So I guess I'll just have to solve this again. Which, this is the weird one in particular, in that this is the first puzzle we have that has a real timing mechanic to it, and a undoing of things that you had just done, disconnecting cords and blinding these tracker eyes under a timer. One assumes this device is your central connection hub to all the other puzzle devices we've done before. And yeah, if you know what you're doing, it's not hard to figure out to repeat it. Okay. So this is where I ended last time. We have a bunch of keys, and we have a note. And the assumption is that it's in this big red crate, because we've done all these other containers. Either that, or we're walking out the door, which noticeably the game never really makes anything of this dark door. There are 2 walls here that are almost completely black, and a lot of this section is also completely black. And so there's some kind of mystery in this story, I'm sure. We can see a star field and a moon. That doesn't inherently mean we're on Earth, but it seems like we think we're on Earth. It would be an interesting twist if this all was just a hologram. Yeah, I think we're going to just be told the mystery. Those are keys for the main exhibitation room. Why would I go there? Besides, it's at the other end of the building, 4 floors below. And with the system that this game has, having even 3 keys nearly fills your inventory. Now, certainly I wasn't considering that I'd ever leave the room, since this game is heavily inspired by the game The Room. I never thought for a second that we would, in the gameplay, leave this area. Maybe at the last cutscene we'd leave the area. Let's see what the note says. I guess there's nothing else in this envelope. Here's a great example of how it really is more of a 2D object with some shadowing and shading happening, instead of being a very thin 3D object like it really should be. We might be able to shed some light on these machines' origin, at least geographically speaking. We do not have interstellar map species on site, but it's clear that this blank comes from blank, and as of yet unexplored area of the galaxy. But why would they come to our planet? More importantly, why did we blank without warning? So, seems like we fired on them without warning. If we study more closely these little spherical devices named the blank by an archaeologist here, it should be possible to pinpoint the exact origin. No relation, the item's original users had to have quite agile fingers and have more of them than humans do. Field Team 416. I'm not sure if all these items came from the same excavation field team. Yeah. Why would they have left this item in the Great Hall? Let's have a look. So what's interesting is that this item is the one on the menu, and this is not the item in the big red container. It would seem to me that this would be the linchpin item. This would be something that made the Earthlings suspicious of this alien species enough to attack them on sight. And it seems to me like it would be an item that is likely going to have been around longer and studied more. Any number of devices, even with our current technology, could be found by some kind of alien species and thought of as being extremely dangerous. Like, not just big items like tanks and planes and fighter planes and nuclear generators or nuclear bombs and things like that, but even like a butter knife, like, could easily be considered as some slow torturous weapon, or steak knife, or and plenty of like movie props and samurai swords and actual weapons and guns and things like that. But even like a cell phone, if you didn't know what a cell phone was, you tried to take it apart, you accidentally pierced the battery would probably burst into flames. They would think it was a bomb at that point. Just the accidental misuse of almost anything with a battery could be considered or thought of as being a bomb. And that's not even taking into the fact that an alien species might be, say, allergic to plastic, allergic to radio waves for like Wi-Fi or AM FM radio, or allergic to, say, certain heat, even slight heat or slight cold, or allergic to oxygen. Oxygen actually is not very prevalent in the universe as far as astronomers can tell, so it's very possible that you would have non-carbon based life forms that would see carbon-based life forms as something incompatible, or non-oxygen breathing life forms that would see oxygen as poisonous. Of course, that's a lot set up for nothing, probably. Just need to click on it, and I guess we're just going to put it on a table here, so there's just a convenient little table in every area. And then I imagine this item over here might be either the anti-grav device or another anti-grav device, or a tease of this game, which we know this game has a sequel. I see now why they sent me here. For safety reasons, they don't always expose the real artifacts in the museum, just replicas like this one. The original can't be too far. Oh. That seems really silly. This is a very different cushioned thing. I guess they want to really make sure. What is that supposed to be? It seems like a very basic puzzle. So then you hit the hinge. There's a whole bunch of different symbols here. But this definitely feels like this would be an earthling based container, so what's the deal with the symbols? And realistically, let's just be honest here. There's no security in the zipper. You can stab a plastic pin into the edge, into the middle of the zipper, and open up any kind of luggage that way. And you definitely don't need the zipper pull to move a zipper. You could easily just use a pair of pliers to grab it, or just grab it with fingernails. We are once again in this weird situation where they seem to have magically found a way in which they can duplicate what one assumes is very complicated technology to make a replica of it and improve on the visuals of the replica. The whole thing seems silly, though, as far as any thought possible that what am I trying to say here? I have a thought, but it is left my head. I feel like what we're gonna see here is, yeah, that. So we want to go the other direction. This might be a device that you use in the next game. Really is just going to come down to a matter of price, I think, as far as whether or not I would be interested in playing the next game. Probably is fairly acceptable in my mind to play these kinds of games. I just don't think it makes for good content in my mind, in that you're not making super long series that just go on forever and ever. And it is certainly a funny comparison. We have an actual dead end here compared to, say, Nancy Drew and the Creature of Capri Cave, where there was a lot of pointless puzzling, it felt like, going on in Nancy Drew, where each one of these puzzles is bespoke and unique to itself, with some repeated game mechanics, sure, but I assume I am supposed to just be getting to the top on this puzzle. And I assume at a certain level that means we are actually just going around and around and around. Not sure which way to go. I would suspect it's this way. It is kind of annoying here how much you're having to zoom in and out. And that you can't just rotate freely. Throughout all of this. It definitely is just teasing me as far as how this puzzle is designed. Okay. So we now have a button. Hold on, I know this seal. I've seen it before. Yeah. So it's got to be something else. The creators of Myst, Cyan, made a game called Firmament, and in that game you are dealing with a device that looks fairly similar to this device. Of course, as far as sci-fi stories go, it's probably not that crazy that a floating orb or an orb computer might exist. Okay. What is in the wrong place? This one? Yep. Yeah, we really are just repeating that same puzzle. How do I know this isn't a bomb? Though. Although, frankly, if it is a bomb, it's a bomb that's been designed specifically to target slightly intelligent people, but not people that would need any secret key that could only be handed to people who are appropriate. And then you get into this weirdness, where... See, I think this is one point where a lot of these puzzle games, I think, start to kind of fall apart, is that once you have a completely different type of technology hidden inside of it, then all of a sudden it makes the whole game feel like it is just a movie prop. So you have this very alien device, but it is just gears. on the inside. And this device is hovering this device, so this device also has some kind of element to it. Almost certainly this is going to be a case where might as well just have an extra copy of things. It's not like we're really getting charged. We can zoom in on the gears. That's not going to help us. See, I don't think this game has achievements either, so I don't think there's any reason to be scarce with the items. Okay. Okay, let's see. The first thing to do would be to move this one here, move that one here, just pull. That's not going to connect. That. Now weirdly, that is going in the wrong direction. So, we'll put one here, put one over here, put one here, put one over here, and do that. And use this orbital gear. I guess I probably need to charge the crystal, don't I? So I needed to take the crystal, put the crystal here. And let's see how that goes now. Did that charge it? It doesn't feel like there's really a charger here. And this one is stuck, so I couldn't move forward even if it wanted to. Unless... Nope. This one just won't move at all. Hmm. And so you're not gonna click on this, I imagine. So everything screams. Oh, I see what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to take the shard and put it here and charge it. Ah. Notice how the audio just kind of goes quiet. There's not enough music here for what they really would need. Music is nice and subtle, I'll give them that, but it's not great. Okay. So there's a limited number. Whoops. And this is just click and rotate counterclockwise. So limited number of locations these can be connected to. And pretty obviously this is just going to connect to some kind of constellation pattern. Although I don't know how a constellation pattern would have any relevance unless it changed based on its position in the universe, which inherently means you would have to know how to know your position, relative position in the whole universe. That is inherently the problem we have at the moment, is that as far as science goes, is we do not know what the center of the universe is, and we have no way of knowing how to label where we are, since we don't have a consistent reference point of either the center of the universe or something else. So that was a lot of puzzle, and a significant amount of that device just disappeared. Now it looks very much like a flower, and we're getting a musical puzzle all of a sudden. Okay. So it seems like the musical feedback on this is not so much musical as it is just beeping and booping. Blue is still in the wrong place. So before we go any further, let's make sure we've got the blue in the right place. So there's just inherent assumption that's going on here that you would have this tiny camera. I don't know where the black goes though. Like which one of these buttons is moving the black? That one? Okay. And certainly we are at a point now where this is just crossing into the realm of magic more than it's crossing into the realm of hard science fiction, which in the past, particularly when sci-fi was mostly people reading science fiction books, hard sci-fi was much more of a thing that was argued for. The difference between Star Trek and Star Wars is how it's best described, I think, these days, in that Star Trek, particularly The Next Generation, had technical consultants on it, and they were saying things that at least seemed scientifically plausible at the time that the episodes were written, whereas Star Wars introduced things like midichlorians and the Force, and very much is just a fantasy story set in a galaxy far, far away in a time long, long ago. That makes Star Wars soft sci-fi because it does have some science fiction technology elements to it. It isn't elves running in the forest like you would expect from like Lord of the Rings, but really it is more fantasy than anything else. And in fact, it is incredibly narrow-minded that we really think of fantasy in such a narrow definition as that it has to be like Lord of the Rings with elves and orcs and things like that. That's what people think of fantasy, particularly in video games. Even older fantasy stories like fairies and trolls and goblins and things like that are less prevalent than orcs and elves that are directly influenced by Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings was a major influence. Anyways, let's read on. This is a map, a kind of navigational system, and it seems to want to go to a precise spot. What is going on here? Only one last machine that might hold some answers. Definitely looks like the solar system. Or close enough. That Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, no tiny Pluto, as far as I can tell. It's so small I can't see it. One sun. So there's one of two things that you would expect that's in this big container. Either it's the spaceship, which would make sense. Who moved this big container is a big question. Or it's a spaceship and an alien. Would be my second thought. There are multiple number dials, and doesn't seem like you can really get to the backside of it. And this is just straight up a joke at this point. Lost machine from Saturn Atlas site, and it's all blacked out. It's weird too that there's too much of a reflection from a virtual spotlight here when it first loads. I'm having to turn it always just to see the lettering there. See if we could get it really bad. Yeah, that's pretty bad. So A equals B3. Let's see if we can figure out why that would be the case. 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, B3. Alright. We're gonna have to look at that. This is labeled that 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. And that told me A5, not B3. Okay. Now to brute force some of this would take a while. 5 to the power 5. It's not. That would be quite a lot of combinations. Wouldn't be impossible to sit here and do all of this. But this game is not a fan of giving you feedback as far as your progress, so it would be blindly sampling things if we didn't have the answer. Okay. So I'm going to ignore the A5 and think that that is something later. And, well, since we have nothing else here, let's try 1, 4, 2, 2, 3 and see if the solution is correct. 1, 4, 2, 2, 3. It's not it. I think that A5 is going to matter later. 1, 4, 2, 2, 3. We'll try them on all of them. 1, 4, 2, 2, 3. Okay, so that does work. A connected to D and gave us the code. So now we need 2, 5, 2, 1, 4. And so this significantly reduces the amount of guessing down to just That's weird. I don't feel like I put in the right code. I think the game intentionally was just going to have it blow up. But there was a way to solve that chapter. And if there were achievements in this game, I would think that you'd probably get an achievement for solving it. But maybe they also recognized that it would have been very, very easy for players to not figure out that you had to put in the right combinations based on the previous solutions. Now, inherently, I don't know what happened there, whether it was the spaceship here expanded and opened the container, or whether the container itself was designed to just explode. Obviously, something this big is not going to fit on the table, and pretty obviously this is a spaceship that seemingly has been shot down by Earthlings. There still definitely feels like there's a level of understandable technology in here. Inherently, you would think that the technology would be designed for ease of use, and as such, if we were to find alien technology, it probably wouldn't be complicated puzzles intentionally. It probably would be very simple things. Like when we consider Linux versus Windows, as far as your concern goes, you look at iPhones, you look at Android phones, they're designed to be as pictorial and as easy to understand as a human could just pick it up and use it, so that it sells better and gets adopted quicker. They are not designed to be complicated command line Linux programs that are designed for experts that would know specific commands inside and out and be comfortable typing in commands. Yeah, notice here we have not touched anything as far as a numbering system or an alphabet in any of these devices. We've just seen pictures, which one assumes that it wouldn't be a purely pictorial species. The command here says HR question mark. So there is still an assumption that this is a spaceship, particularly since it was shot down, or some kind of maybe time-traveling device, maybe interdimensional device, but something that moves you from point A to point B. It could be a chair you sit in that gives you knowledge, which would be more interesting for puzzle solvers. And we're just going to sit on it without any concern at all, apparently. Is this a screw? Looks like the case for the scroll I studied earlier could fit in here. I have to check this. Yeah. Inherently, it would make sense if just all the items you got were I think you just put the whole thing with the container in there. Oh. So then I guess at this point, maybe this has been fixed, because it wasn't fixed before. I had to use a pin. So we are going to be connecting everything into the ship. That, although it does seem to me like it's not going to do it all at once and give you 5 different puzzle pieces to find out where they put it. So this wants everything equipped. Okay. This is probably going to take a little while. Do that, do that. Do that, do that. Need to make a figure 8, which means I need this piece over here. Okay. There we go. One would half expect that to be another scroll wheel. This is a hologram of one of the other machines. I'll go and get them all to check this out. It does seem like crazy that there's just no safety protocols, seemingly, at all. Now we have all the alien machines. This machine looks all set up, and yet it looks like it's waiting for something else. So you have a screen on one side, and you have a scroll, a orb on the other side. You can certainly screwdriver this. These puzzles, as far as the screwdrivers are concerned, have really devolved into just always being 5 versions of the same shape. So one would assume that your rocket thruster, need to raise the chair first. Well, let's just move all of these, which we can just move all up and down so they can go anywhere. Move all of these in positions where the 2 points intersect. We're making progress here. This is super easy. So the anti-grav device is not to hover up other objects. It is designed to hover the chair itself. Which that is weird that you would have 2 completely separate devices to propel a machine and a vehicle. But it does allow for you, I guess, to just not interfere or step on the grass effectively. And it might be that the anti-grav is just your impulse thruster. Whereas I think I've repaired this machine. I should check the scroll now. So we're just going on a trip. Of course, it's missing the last thing, the pilot. So we sit on here. And then I would assume we have to put on the mask too. It would kind of suck if this was the bad ending, because I didn't bother to put the mask on. The helmet. Doesn't seem like I can put the helmet on though. Okay. Now this is crazy. We are seeing languages, but the languages are also showing horoscope symbols. Which would imply that these aliens have either been on Earth before and they introduced the horoscope symbols, or they have studied. Okay. Can we go back before? Okay. So, the circle with the plus in it is 1, 2, 3 black dot. I'm thinking maybe if we do that, we can translate everything into English. 1. There's something more to this. We can't just use the mask to translate. Well then let's just start with this. It says 1, 2, 3 all shelled out. Well, this is just a black dot filled in. Okay. So then let's start with that one. Down, down, up. I guess we'll make everything up since it started down, and we would assume it wouldn't be in the default starting spot. I don't know if there really is. Okay, so you have to go all the way around, up and around to make sure. And that didn't do anything, so let's now set it pointing downward. That too doesn't feel like it's reacting in any way. Should be 4. I think all 4 are where we want it. Okay. 2 and 3 filled in at the next location. That was Mercury. We're now looking for Venus. Let's just spin. So 2, 3. Then Earth. It's just a black dot. So we're going to just fill this in based on what I think I'm supposed to do. And then we'll see if we... This one is everything off. So in a funny way, it kind of does feel like everything is just already set. Then the next one is 2, 3 and the black dot on. Two, 3, black dot. This is an example of a puzzle, and then the final one here is just 3 on. It is a great example of a puzzle that probably should have 2 endings, 2 solutions. Where is 3? I'm seeing 1, I'm seeing 2, I'm seeing the black dot. Three is hidden here. Now what? I can't move the scroll and flip it over and see the background. Still don't know how I managed to fit my head in there. Interesting. Maybe that is a hint that the character we're playing is actually an alien. Okay. Let's see. Endoscope, screwdriver, duplicator. As you can drag things from this direction to that direction and back. Unfortunately, I guess the case here is that we've got to flip the script on it and turn everything the other direction. Now, I mean, that really is the only guidance we have. And I guess the green is slightly, and that is lit up more. It feels. Double check. We needed 2, 3 to be darker, and I guess we're assuming purple is darker. So 2 and 3 down, 1 and dot green. What would be irritating certainly is if it turned out, I've forgotten what I was supposed to be doing here. Just the dot. It would be irritating certainly if it turned out that you had to just spin the orientation of the planets to a specific location. There is also noticeably an issue in that you can click on buttons even if you can't see them. Through the sphere. Okay, everything should be light green. Let's see, 1 and a 2 and a dot. Let's just find that 3. Okay. 2, 3, and dot should be dark. On the next one, this is another spinning one. So 2, too much. So difficult to work with. 2, 3, and dot. Just 3 for the last planet. Even in this final puzzle, it is a case where it would be a big amount of time you would have to commit, but definitely seems doable that you could just fiddle with the whole system. See, there's just nothing else. Yep, and that feels true to life. That I have now just put all of the right symbols in the combination they want. So there's got to be another element to this. Something that I just haven't even found yet. Like the colors are glowing nice and bright on the planets I see. Maybe Mercury. What's wrong? Did I mess up Mercury? Everything should be off on Mercury. 3, 2, 1. Three, 2, 1. Where is the dot? Okay, Mercury looks like it's glowing now. This one might be wrong. So let's double check that. And this may very well be 2 and 3. This may very well be a case where I just accidentally clicked on something. 2 and 3 are dark, 1 and dot are light. So that seems right. Everything seems like it's glowing. And there's just nothing to click on. So I feel like the game is just giving me the appropriate visual feedback. To say I've done it correctly. This button seems to be already pressed. Doesn't seem like we can do anything more with it. And the music just is cutting in and out. unlike Riven, the sequel to Myst, there's no way we would have had this knowledge or language decoded. See, unfortunately, I'm now painted into a corner where I've gone an hour, but there almost certainly isn't another hour of gameplay after this puzzle is solved. Okay. It's one of two things to test here. A brute force experiment on all combinations, or trying to align everything. It definitely is a point here where you can get almost everything on screen. You kind of think you would want that. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 6. Like, honestly, it's not too far off what I would expect, but the real orientation probably something closer to that, and that doesn't really make a lot of sense either. There's nothing really special about how these hit the edge and then okay. Brute force time. So we had assumed that down meant negative. See, the flickering here, and the brightness on all this, though, does seem to change I don't get it. It's not like there's a hint button. This tells me I'd assume that this is just a paragraph break. And then this says to me that every single symbol should be shallow. Okay, let's try this. Then we'll change that to red, and we'll go in order to 2, change that to red, and we'll go in order to 3, change that to red. I'll change the dot to red. And that to me seems like it is lit up. But then the hologram just kind of disappears with that. Let me change that to green. Then change that to green. And then it lights up for really no reason. Change that to green. And then change that to green. It doesn't light up, so let's do it again. Red, well, magenta. See, then it lights up halfway through. It doesn't inherently light up there until later. And so the whole hologram filling element here just doesn't seem like it has anything to do with anything. Something does just feel like I should just have the mask on. I can't do anything with the mask. The only thing I really wanted to do is get the Earth going. Well, I suppose there is a possibility we could turn the dot on everything. Well, that's not right anyways. Yeah, Earth is only supposed to have the dot on it. So why? See, this is the problem, is I keep just clicking through the center. So it seems like it's just a massive combination puzzle that is kind of glitchy. Alright. Before I commit any more time to this, I am just gonna cheat and look up a walkthrough. Because it's not really good content to sit here and fiddle with a not 100% polished interface when there is a small possibility that there is something else completely that needs to be done. So according to this walkthrough, the explosion was scripted. So there's nothing else to that. Black equals green. Okay. So, looking at the walkthrough, this is what you're supposed to do. It's just not really explaining whether you should interpret black to be green or not. So that one is good. Next, need to find. Wait a minute. No, this is part of the problem, isn't it? I'm looking possibly at the wrong planets. Now that's good. We're looking for Venus. What are we looking for? 2 and 3 to be green. That. That. So the whole lock-in here really needs to happen, and it's not. Once you get one planet correct, it really should be only that one. You shouldn't be able to manipulate or change anything on the planet after the fact. I suspect we're going to see a line just shoot through the moon. Okay. Everything off on the next one. And see, the funny thing here is they have the animations. So it was just a small matter of a little bit better programming. 1, 2, dot, and 3. Where the hologram animation should fill in with color. 2, 3, and dot for next one. I think that's correct, hopefully. Just 3 on the last one. And so I assume as soon as I just get this correct, it is just going to work. And this is 3. Yep. So there was like 2 options there, and only one solution when there should have been 2 solutions. It should have just really been better. You could have been given a chart, certainly also, that would have told you how many things you've correct and given you some kind of guidance. And even as a time waster, if you compare this to a lot of other games that are trying to waste your time, they failed if that was their goal. I don't think it really was their goal, because this only has wasted maybe 20 more minutes out of a 5-hour game. Although, in fairness, this definitely feels like artificial challenge by just bad game feedback. And it certainly doesn't make up for previous puzzles where I breeze through them without even really having to think. And even here, there was no logical way to think about this. I needed A equals 1 as a mathematical step 1, where I needed it to say green equals dark ink or magenta equals light ink. And what you would have done there is you would have just had Mercury have only 2 symbols on it, and then feedback when you got it correct and locking in. So we've set up an autopilot, and I assume we're just going to shove our head in the helmet as the ship starts to fly away, and we're going to be sent off to a new world. Yeah. I don't know if we intentionally just put the helmet on or if the machine forced us to put the helmet on. Now, it is a fair question, certainly, to ask, do I think the sequel to this game is going to be in a better state if I'm in some kind of alien landing site or alien planet? I would say probably not any better or worse of a state. It just means we'll be somewhere and there'll be some kind of rock pillar, more than likely, or we'll be in a alien spaceship facility and there'll be some kind of table. So there is a whole nother site here they're showing that seems to have been shot down, and it looks definitely like Earthlings have been there and have been studying it for a while. Why is there no security around any of this, though? Like, clearly the only thing you can assume here is that the military is keeping something so secret that they're also failing to keep the components that would reveal the secret out of the hands of curious people, in this case the museum, unless this is all just a scheme to get your character to research this location. Well, that doesn't look good. Looks like I'm not done here. And this is pretty typical for these small puzzle games where you are just going to be left on a cliffhanger. And more than likely, Machinika Atlas would just leave you on another cliffhanger, because if you like these kinds of games, you'll want more of them. And as long as they're reasonably priced, if you get them on sale for 99 cents, they're a great deal. If you're paying $2.99, they're fine. If you're paying $5.99, you're probably paying a little bit of a premium. Anything over $7.99, in my opinion, is a little too much. Once you go past, way past the $1 per hour of gameplay experience, it becomes tough to justify, considering how so many other games exist, which it has to compete with. Now, in fairness, that is something unique to video games, whereas a single ticket to a movie probably is going to be $5 to $10 these days for 2 hours of entertainment, so that is very highly blown. Of course, most movies are also much more polished as far as the experience than this is. And yeah, as I guessed, you just have a table and you would just see more puzzles like this. And at a certain level, I guess we just have to say it's hard to hate a game that's short and sweet. In a direct contrast to Nancy Drew and Creature of Capu Island, there's very little to complain about. It's interesting to see how many people can be credited for a fairly small game like this, but notice that the vast majority of people here are making just 3D art for the puzzles. So yeah, hard to really complain, but also hard to sing any major praises for a game like this. This is particularly a game that is going to be played once and you'll pretty much never come back and play it again. It's a one and done. It's throwaway, disposable experience. I would have liked it to be more challenging, certainly in contrast to something like Myst or Firmament. Those are games that have very similar concepts but have more complicated puzzles and a more of an open world that you wander around to make it feel like a connected real world instead of just what is effectively a cell phone game. Now it is interesting, I kind of hear sound effects in the background from this game. Wonder if maybe there's supposed to be some kind of hint around that. But yeah, if you were to play this game now, Machinika Atlas is, I imagine, available to purchase or close to being available to purchase, but then I imagine you'll play the game for the sequel for 5 hours and then they will promise a third game and go for a trilogy. I believe The Room, which this is obviously inspired by, also initially thought it would just be a one and done game, and it had some success, and then they made a sequel. And inherently in these kinds of games that are going to always try to leave room for a quick sequel, there will just be a point where either the quality gets really low or the game just gets really repetitive, and at that point it's just not worth going any further. I doubt we'll ever get any major improvements in this series. You're not going to likely see actual aliens or talk to them or have voice acting or cutscenes or anything like that. That's all a little too ambitious for a game that started so small. You might see this company have success and make a new series similar. But yeah, this is the kind of game I also struggle to commentate on because of its narrow scope, because there's such a small amount of stuff that can be said. I can't really get into the details of each puzzle when each puzzle usually only takes about 5 or 10 minutes to solve. Anyways, that's going to be it for this series. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos because that helps me with YouTube. If you want to check out my YouTube page, there's a playlist tab that has a playlist for every game I've ever covered, so check some of those out. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.